Welcome back all my aspiring pattern makers and my future fashion designers. You might have an invitation to a formal occasion or a semi-formal occasion, and you might be thinking of wearing a strapless dress or a sleeveless dress. You might not feel comfortable wearing the strapless dress or the sleeveless dress because you need to cover your arms. Or it could be a situation where you are the type of person who tends to get cold easily, and so if the room is nippy, you need to feel warm and you need something to cover up those arms. Instead of reaching for the traditional cashmere shawl like this, or simply opting to use an organza or chiffon shawl where you simply got a rectangular fabric and then you turn on the edges, you might still say to yourself, yes, that is covering my arms, but I am restricted, because it might be an occasion where there's going to be some dancing and you need to get on that dance floor and dance, 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 dance. I'm here to your rescue. You don't have to worry about that, because we're going to get on that floor and we're going to move our body and dance, dance, dance. We need to feel the movement of the music, and we're going to move our body and we're going to dance and enjoy ourselves and dance like there's no tomorrow. But we don't need that restriction with the traditional shawl. So I'm going to show you what you can wear. You can simply opt to wear a cover up like this. This is what the cover up looks like, right? You have the opening there, and you will simply now have your arms going through. Yes, I'm wearing a top with the sleeve, so it's going to look a bit bulky, but the whole premise is that you are going to push both arms through, okay, like that, and you now have a cover up. So you can get on that dance floor and you can do any movement. Your arms are restricted, you are covering your bicep, and you feel comfortable wearing your gown, and you don't have to worry about that strapless gown or worry about your sleeveless gown. Just go out there and enjoy the night. Have fun. You can make it with a band like this, or you can make it with an elastic at the wrist, or you can simply just taper it in and make it smaller right here, so it just tapers into nothing. Or you can simply even just let it loose and don't have a cuff or a band there, just like this one. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful cover up. So let's get right into it. So before you get started with making your cover up, you need to plan accordingly. You will need at least 2/3 yards of fabric, and this must be by 60 inches wide fabric. You cannot use a 45-inch wide fabric to make this cover up. So once you have the 60-inch width fabric, you're going to measure your center back over across your shoulder down to your sleeve wrist, where the bone is right there. For me, it is 30 inches. I am going to have my fabric on the fold right here. This is the fold, and I'm going to measure across to this end. Actually, not 30 inches. I need just 29 inches. With that 29 inches going across, I'm going to cut it, and my width is going to be 20 inches. So in total, my rectangle, when it is open, is going to be 58 inches by 20 inches. You will need 2 pieces of fabric for the wristband. And what you will do with that, I would suggest that you measure your fist. I have 8 1/8, but I'm going to give another 1/8 ease. And so I'm going to use 8 1/4, but I'm going to add seam allowance to that, which is going to be 1/4 inch seam allowances on either side of the wristband. So it's a total of 1/2 inch seam allowance, which will make that 8 3/4 inch. So you have the 8 3/4 inch, and for the width, you are going to think about how wide you want your finish width to be. I'm using a finish width of 1 1/4 inch, so times that by 2 would be 2.5 inches, and then you are going to add 1/2 inch seam allowances on either side, so that would bring it to a total of 3.5 inch wide for your wristband, but you can choose to make it a finished width of 1 inch, and then it will simply be 3 inches width that you would use. Let's plan for the opening for the cover up. You are going to measure your across back, meaning your back shoulder width. So if your across back or your back shoulder width is 18 inches, I would suggest that you add an extra 6 inches to that to make it to 24 inches. So once you have that 6 inches, that is going to give you ease on either side. So you need 3 inches on either side. And so that will be 24 inches. And from the fold right here, you are going to measure in 12 inches from the fold, put a notch there or marking, right? And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. The fold line there, 12 inches, and you put a mark. Since you have the 2 pieces for the cuff, you're going to use fusible. And this is what the fusible is. You're going to iron on the fusible onto these 2 pieces for the cuff. On the wrong side, you're going to iron on. So this is what it's going to look like when you iron it on. This is the right side without the fusible. This is the back side with the fusible. You can see the difference there. And so you have the fusible. And once you do that, the next thing that you're going to do now, you have this. You are going to simply look where your notch is along the edge for your 12 inches. And you are going to open up your fabric still with the right sides together, and you're going to pin from that notch that is 12 inches from the fold. You're going to put your first pin there, and you're going to pin the rest to the end. And you're going to do the same thing from the other side. You're going to put both of them together, and you're also going to pin from that notch that you have, which was from the 12-inch mark from the fold of the fabric. And now you're ready to take this to the sewing machine and start sewing. And you're going to sew from the pin all the way to the end. Oh, this is the other end that you're going to start sewing from here all the way down to here, and also this end, so all the way down to there. Leave this part open because that is what you're going to turn under to create the opening area for your cover up. So let's take this now to the sewing machine and let's get started with showing you how to sew this. So now I'm making the shawl, and I am starting from the notch that I have here, and I'm going to sew all the way down. I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. Now this is for the cuff, and I'm doing 1/4 inch seam allowance here. And I'm going to do the same thing for the next piece, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to go back to my original piece, and I'm going to turn this over, start from the notch point here, 1/2 inch seam allowance there, and you're going to sew come into the other end. And the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to serge the edges of this part because I'm going to turn over the other part. This is my serging thread here, and the edges are serged. I'm going to also iron this. This is the entire opening, and I'm going to turn under this 1/4 inch. Before you do so, I want you to make sure that notch is deep enough, and you're going to tie your threads. Please don't forget to tie your threads here. Always important. So turn this under 1/4 of an inch, right? You're going to sew it down, and there we go. I'm going to sew that all around the opening area. That is where you're going to put both of your arms through. And for this other end, you also is going to tie the threads as usual. Make sure you tie your threads there and cut them. And you're going to open that notch a little bit more so you'll be able to turn under that 1/4 of an inch smoothly, and you won't have anything bulging or a bulky area. And what I would suggest you do here, you can do one of two things. You can just turn it around, or after you have sewn it, you can go back and create a seam that is going to give you a clean finished look. So I'm going to just turn it around right here and sew it. To get that clean finished look at that point. For the sleeve end, I wanted to have tucks like this. I'm going to create those tucks now, and I have my band here. I'm going to put the right sides together, but before I do so, for the body of this, right where the cuff is going to be attached to this, I placed a notch at the 1/2 mark, and then I placed another notch at the 1/4 mark and at the 3/4 mark. So I'm going to use this seam here as the other end part or the other half for that mark. And I did the same thing on the cuff. I placed notches right at the 1/2 mark, and then at the 1/4, and also at the 3/4 mark. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to place the right sides together where the seam is. I'm going to make sure that my seam line up with the seam on the cuff, and I'm going to place a pin there. Then I'm going to find the 1/4 mark right on the cuff and also on the body of the cover up, and I place a pin right there at the 1/4 mark. There the 2 notches are. I'm going to do the same thing for the 1/2 mark. So I have my 1/2 mark here, place the notches together, and I'm going to pin that, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other 1/4 mark right here, which now would be the 3/4 mark, and I'm going to place a pin right there where the 2 notches are. So in between that, if you notice here, I have the extra fabric. I'm just going to freehand create some tucks. You can actually measure out your tucks based on the width that you have here and also the width of this. But because I've been sewing for many years, I can literally just freehand my tuck. Learn from experience. You just can do things free-handedly when you have experience. And you place your tucks accordingly. Create the next one. I want to make sure that it's close enough You can actually even do your half mark there and know that, okay, you're going to use that to create part of the tuck, and you can do the half mark here. So this is another option of you doing that. So you can do the 1/8 mark so that your tuck is more on the same width. Place a pin there. Now you do the next one in that space, and you place a pin there. You can do the same thing as I stated before. Find the half mark, or which is now the 1/8 mark. You can put a pin there, or you can notch it again. It's your preference what you want to do, and then you do the same thing for the underpiece one. You can notch it, or you can just simply place a pin there. So because I placed a pin there, I'm going to make sure that I have this right there, and my tuck is going to be like this. And this, you will have a more accurate width when you do it like that, as opposed to freehand. But because I'm a veteran, I've been sewing for over 40 years, actually about 40 years to be exact, and I know how precise this should be, or how to do your tucks where they're pretty much, you don't have to do the measurement of each one of them. So as I stated, you do the 8 mark and you put a pin there on the fabric. You also form that 1/8 mark, and you place a pin here. And once you have that, you can line up this pin with that, and then you can create your tuck like this. And then the last one, you simply just have it where it's like this. And there goes your tucks. And the next step is just to sew this together. All right, and now you're ready to sew. So what I usually do, I usually sew where I have my solid piece on top, and then underneath are the tucks. Or if you feel more comfortable sewing it the other way, it is up to you, but it's to your comfort. So you can either do it this way, and I'm using 1/4 inch here for my seam allowance, and because this is a cuff, you don't need to use 1/2 inch for this. And I always place that needle in the fabric, and I'm ready to sew. Every time you're stopping, make sure that the needle is embedded into the fabric so that it is not going to move. Okay, so you do it like that, and this is what it is. Now the next step is to do the same thing on this sleeve. So as I stated, it's easier to do it that way, or if you prefer doing it in this method, it's up to you. So let's do this method and show you, so at least you have an idea what it is going to be like, and what hiccups you might have encountered while you are sewing. So what I usually do when I'm sewing a pleat or a tux, I usually have the folded part coming towards me, meaning that it is coming away from the presser foot, so that the presser foot won't bring some of that fabric onto it. If it's from the reverse end, it will be an easy, smoother sailing situation there when you are sewing. So this is what I'm saying, that you come in and do it in this direction as opposed to the other direction. And it seems as if this came out. So because it seems as if this one came out, I'm just simply going to create that tuck now, right here. Okay, just like that. That pin came out. So you have to be very careful when you are sewing. Things like this usually happens at times, and you just have to be careful with that, okay? And that's it. Now that I've done that, it's time now to turn this cuff to give it a clean finish look. So now once again, you're going to check your seam with your cuff and see, that is beautiful. Should be like that, okay? Because you want a nice clean finish look when you're doing that. You need the seams to be lining up to look good. It's just simply a fashion thing. You have to make sure those are lined up. My cuff width here is 1¼ of an inch. I can do one of two things. And turn this over first like this, and then I can make sure that it is lining up with the seam there, and I'm going to measure. So you can measure 1¼ of an inch all around, right? Just like that, 1¼ of an inch. And once you measure 1¼ of an inch all around, you can just pin that area. But now when you're pinning, don't come too close to the end. Go towards the edge, because you're going to turn under this piece, and you need that space so that the pin doesn't jam on it. 1¼ all around, and you pin that. This is the reason why I just love this grid ruler. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Easy measurements. All right, easy, easy, easy peasy. Can't stress it anymore. Easy peasy. So double check, make sure you have 1¼ all around. All right, and if you don't, make your adjustments. Okay, this looks like it. 1¼ all around. Yep. And now you're ready to sew. If you are new at sewing, you can simply baste this when you turn this part underneath. But because I'm a veteran, I don't need to baste this. I'm going to stitch on the side of the fabric that has the cuff. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do right here. And you turn under your seam allowance part there, and yeah, you just take your time, turn it under as you are going around. This is the art of sewing and sewing neatly. You have to do that. Yeah, and if any pin happens to come out, just remove it, and don't sew over the pin. Don't, please. Okay. And while you're doing this, you just continue around, keep the needle down into the fabric. Let me state this, that if you are a beginner, please baste this before you start sewing it. Yes, basting is very important, so make sure you baste that before you start sewing. I'm a veteran, so I've been doing this for years, so I don't need to baste it. And just take your time, because you're dealing with a cuff and the width is not wide enough, so you have to make baby strides and then continue. Okay, and I taught you how to tie the thread, pull it through to the back, and you can knot it one of three ways. You can knot it this way, or you can open it and tie it. And that's what you have there. And this is what your cuff will look like. Remove the pins and cut off any fray thread that you might see on the other side. Let's turn it inside out so you can see the end product. So this was that thread that was there, and this is it. Okay, and I did iron this before. This is what the end part looks like, and there are two pieces. So I'm going to now turn over this part, and then I'm going to continue. So this is what the final product looks like, right? You have the cuff there, and your hand can go through on the cuff, all right, just like that, and on the other one also. And this is the opening where you would push your arm through for this side, going through like this, seam allowance on the inside, and on the other side it will go through like this. And this is your final product. So in conclusion, now that you know how to make this beautiful cover up, you will go ahead and toss that traditional rectangular shawl that you have and elevate your style. Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. Dare to be different. So the next time you go to the fabric store, pick up enough fabric so you can make yourself a couple of these in various colors so that you can have many to choose from. You can have one in black, you can have one in white, you can have one in gold, red, whatever color that you want to make them out of. Don't wait for the next occasion and to be scrambling and looking for a cover up, and then you are going to pull that rectangular shawl. No, level up your game so that when you get on the dance floor at that next formal occasion, you will be dancing, 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 having fun as if today is your last. Enjoy yourself. Life is short. Don't be restricted wearing the traditional shawl. Get out there and dance, 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 dance. Move your body, feel the music, and don't feel that restriction with that regular traditional shawl. With that being said, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And guess what? Share this video with others around the world so they too can go ahead and level up their game and make several of these and have it in their wardrobe. While you're at it, hit that like button. And don't forget to leave me a comment. I like to read your comments. And thank you for watching, and see you soon on the next video to come. And remember, level up, level up, level up, level up.